2 years ago, at the foot of the Sandia Mountains, lay a town named Albuquerque. It was here that two men, an attorney and a television news reporter, came together to speak of board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. They saw what they had created, and they said, "Nay, we are not but men. We are the Dukes of Dice." Today, after 104 continuous weeks, they stand before you with unbreakable wings. The champions of cardboard, the masters of meeples, the kings of chits and counters. Join your Dukes, Sean and Alex, for the second-year anniversary show. Let the spectacular begin. Hail Hydra.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board, card, and occasionally role-playing games. Today, the Dukes celebrate their second-year Duke-iversary in style by giving you their updated top 10 games of all time. Then they talk about the past year in the state of the Duchy and what's coming next. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
And this is episode 104, the second Duke-iversary, Deux of Dice.
We have to butcher French.
We sure do,
in
Alex.
celebration.
So that's big thanks to Nick Hayes, who named the episode on our board game guild number 2008. And what's cool about that particular title is it looks like Dukes, if you're just kind of looking at it English phonetically, D-E-U-X.
Yeah, maybe we'll just confuse people. I don't know.
Yeah. So Alex, happy Duke-iversary to you.
Happy Duke-iversary. Jillian was asking me the other night if I'd gotten you anything for the Duke-iversary.
Right.
And I said no, and then you were like, but should you have?
And, well, no, but the big thing was, you were like, well, she was joking. And I'm like, but was she?
Kind of half joking, in fairness.
Yeah. So I didn't get you anything.
Oh, okay,
I
good.
didn't, and I have no hidden surprises this year, nothing up my sleeve. I have no Everything is Splendor.
No singing?
No, I mean, I could sing Everything is Splendor right now.
Oh, okay. The a cappella version?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. No. Don't do that. Anyway.
So yeah, this is our 2-year anniversary episode. Kind of a weird number, 104. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. The intro.
Oh, epic.
Yeah, so that's Jake Bach from Draft Mechanic Podcast. Now, last year, we kind of solicited a bunch of our friends in board game media to give us a quick shout out, congratulating us, which is kind of a weird thing to ask for.
Yeah.
And I was a little reluctant to do that again this year.
In fact, you didn't do that.
Well, I didn't do that. So we didn't solicit anything. However, Jake provided that amazing intro, which was super awesome. We've been listening to that probably 15 times.
Oh man, because we've had it for weeks.
Yeah, we've had it for like a good month now, since Dice Tower Con, actually.
That's right.
And so super excited for that. So really appreciate that from Jake. And both Jake and Danielle, again, are part of the Draft Mechanic Podcast, which is one that I've been talking about for a while. I got to meet them when they were here in town back in Christmas. So definitely go check them out. Really appreciate that. We got another one from another buddy of ours that you'll hear a little bit later too. So just really appreciate the thoughtfulness of that. It was awesome.
Yeah, we didn't ask, and they sent anyway. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's our Duke-iversary, 2 years, Alex, of the Dukes of Dice podcast. And we're going to talk a little bit later about the state of the Duchy. By the way, survey results, someone asks, what's a duchy?
Oh, yeah.
And
but not spelled as duchy anyway.
So it's if you don't know, and I just assume people know because they're well-versed on their nobility rankings and realms of noble people. So duchy is just
on assumption.
Yeah, the domain of a duke. Like in Dominion, there is a duchy, which is worth 5 points. I think the duchy should be worth 8 points in Dominion, but that's just me, Alex, like a province. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be giving you our State of the Duchy a little bit later, and then, of course, our updated top 10 list coming up in a bit. Real quick, let's do some show business. We do have a Patreon account if you want to help support the Dukes of Dice, and we really appreciate all of our awesome Patreon supporters. You can head over to patreon.com/Dukes of Dice, and we have a couple new backers this week. We have Joseph Pilkis, who was a brand new count level backer. Joseph, thank you very much. And then also Knights at the Game Table are a new Knight level backer, and I think they've got a new podcast. They followed us on Twitter. I followed them on Twitter, so thank you very much to our new backers. backers, and to all of our existing backers, we appreciate you very much so.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Sean, what'd you play this week?
Well, Alex, I got to play during what's become our kind of heavy Sunday morning.
Again, Ducal we.
Yes. Wait, I didn't say we.
Well, you said R.
Oh, so Ducal R.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So we're doing the Sunday mornings, like 8:30. This week was at Empire Board Game Library. The week before, or 2 weeks before, whatever, we did it at the Duchy. And we got to play Brass, a Martin Wallace classic. It's like ranked number 17 on Board Game Geek. It's came out in 2007, I believe. And this game was awesome. This is a game that I've known it was good, but I haven't necessarily wanted to play it because there's an economic aspect, there's a route building aspect, which historically have not been my things, but apparently are becoming my things, Alex.
Yep.
They're becoming my things. So this was Brass, and I got to play this at 4 players with our buddy David and Len and Rory. And it is, like I said, route building. There are 2 ages to the game, or 2 time periods. One where you're building canals in a portion of England, the other where you're building railroads. And how these canals are built will determine your network and how you can use resources that other people have kind of built up and created and transport throughout that network to build new things of yours. This is very similar to Via Nebula in terms of grand scheme design, but very much heavier and more complicated. Obviously, same designer. This was a lot of fun. This was really good. Did I win? I won. Yeah, I won this game. I think you would like this. It's not too heavy. I think it's like in the 3.7 range on BGG, so it's somewhere there right below medium heavy, like slightly below medium heavy. And it had feelings of power grid because it's got that economics. There's no auction, but I think you might like this. I think part of the problem for you with Arkwright was that there was necessarily no spatial components, and not that you have to have that, but I think you would have appreciated that more. Okay. It was too much of just a spreadsheet, which I loved, but no, Brass was really good. I think there's a good reason it's number 17. I am hankering to play some more Brass, especially now after I've gotten one play. Very solid game, and very interesting. These economic games and route building are, I don't know, Alex, I'm turning a new leaf.
Maybe you'll have to build up your Ticket to Ride collection.
Yes. Yes, that's what I was going for there.
Absolutely.
So that's Brass, which there's a deluxe copy available from Eagle Griffin Games, and there's been some issues with it with Martin Wallace and Eagle Griffin in the last 6 months. There was a Kickstarter that got pulled, and so there's some rights issues with it. I don't know if there's going to be a new version at some point soon, but definitely worth checking out. I think it's very deserving of its rank on BGG. So that's Brass.
Excellent. All right. We got in a game of Medici or Medici, depending on how you prefer to say it.
Well, if you want to say it correctly, it's Medici, but go on.
Oh, my goodness. So this is a Reiner Knizia game, and Sean, typically not a big fan of Knizia games, and I don't know if this is going to change based off of this play. Yeah, Sean shrugging. So this is an auction game. You play it over the course of 3 rounds. You're trying to fill up a cargo ship. You want to have the most valuable goods on the ship, but you also want to have a lot of the same types of goods if you can. That's the general gist of the game. And it does auctions in a slightly different way where you don't get a chance to kind of continually rebid over each other.
Single round auction.
You get one chance to bid. It was good. It was good, but maybe I'd like to try it again knowing how the scoring works, because the first round I didn't know how scoring worked, and that bit me big time.
Sure.
Big time. Sean, meanwhile, was the master of Medici.
Yeah. The Medici master. I was master of my Medici.
No, you were very good at this.
Well, what's interesting is it wasn't so much the auction component, but you're flipping cards that everyone's bidding on. It reminded me in some ways of Biblios. I think I prefer Biblios a little bit more.
Oh, no doubt. I definitely prefer Biblios.
But you're flipping 1 to 3 cards, and so when it's your turn, you have control over that, and every player can only hold 5 cards. So if, Alex, you already have 3, and I'm flipping 3 cards, well, you only have room for 2, so you can't even participate in that particular bid.
Right.
So I think that I was really playing with that and kind of making it so I had complete control. I pretty much not let you guys knock yourselves out, and then I can kind of just do whatever I want and bid incredibly low amounts for cards once you guys were kind of locked out of the bidding.
Yeah, no, it was you did it masterfully.
So yeah, it was fine. It was good, but it just didn't wow me. And I think part of it was kind of my thing with deck builders too, where Dominion, you're deck building for the sake of deck building. It's not like, say, Baseball Highlights, where it's just a component. There's some actual other gameplay going on there. So, like, for example, one of my favorite auction games is Cyclades, because you're bidding for different actions, the different favor of the gods that you can take actions on, and there's a whole dudes on the map component. So I like auctions there. I like auctions in Power Grid, even though I'm horrible at Power Grid because you're getting the power plants you need to fuel your little energy empire. But no, this was good. When I play a Knizia game, it typically is like, oh yeah, that's good. That's good. But it never wows me. Never wows me. I mean, Lost Cities, I think, is probably an exception. I love Lost Cities. But I would like to be more of a Knizia fan, but I don't know.
I had a really good experience with Winter Circle, which you need to try.
Sure.
And Ra, I really enjoyed too.
I've played Ra years ago, and it kind of another auction game. And so I don't know. Like I said, they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're quite good games. They don't do it for me.
So that's Medici/Medici. Over to you, Sean.
All right. So going on right now while we're recording is Gen Con, the best 4 days in gaming. And Alex, we are not there, but Gen Cant is happening. And we both got to participate in some Dukes of Dice Gen Cant activities. Mine was the official Dukes of Dice Gen Cant. Yours was the cardboard lunch, Dukes of Dice auxiliary
Gen Cant
lunch.
Hey, it was better than Gen Cant.
Well, that's the beauty of Gen Cant, though. Number one, if you're not at Gen Con, you're already an attendee, whether you intend to or not, right? And number two, there's all of these events that people just throw together. It's awesome. So, and of course, that's, if you know anything about Gen Cant, go to gencant.com. You can follow them on Twitter at Gen Cant. And this was started by our buddy Suzanne, Duke Suzanne. And she put together this awesome thing with a bunch of prizes from publishers and other people.
They have a mascot this year.
Yeah, a little
It's a Canterpillar.
Canterpillar. You wanted Cant Chocula.
which Suzanne kind of laughed at, but I don't think it was ever in serious consideration. It didn't make the poll, I'll put it that way.
So we kind of threw together our Gen Cant event at kind of the last minute this time around over at Empire. We had like a 3-week lead in last year. We also did like a promo video, and this year things have just been kind of hectic and crazy, so that didn't happen. But we did have a pretty good turnout at Gen Cant over at Empire last night. So briefly, I got to play Diamonds by our buddy Mike Fitzgerald. Great trick-taking game that's kind of like Hearts, but you have special actions depending on the suit of the trick that you're winning, or if you're playing out of suit. Great game. Also got to play Zolkin, which at one point was my number 1 game back in 2014. It was my number 2 game last year. I wonder if it's still going to be on the list this year, Alex.
It will be.
We'll talk a little bit more about Zolkin later. And then I got back to the table, something I haven't played in a while, Zhanguo. So this was a good night. Diamonds, Zolkin, Zhanguo. This is another one of the What's Your Game games. And Zhanguo has a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of area control. It's got a little bit of engine building. And you are trying to unify China during the Middle Kingdom, I think it is. And so you're trying to place these governors out on these 5 different regions. At the end of the game, whoever has control of each region is going to score a bunch of points. Throughout the game, what you're doing is you have a hand of these 6 cards over 5 rounds. And these 6 cards, you're either going to tuck them under your player board to generate some bonus actions whenever you take a particular action, or you're going to discard a card to take a particular action, but you care whether the value on the card is higher or lower than the previous card, because it's going to affect whether or not you're going to get to turn on those bonus actions for that particular action. I love this game. I think it's fantastic. This is my 3rd play of it. I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast. I love these What's Your Game games. They're very solid, medium, heavyweight games, and I mean, just fantastic. I got to play with Chris and Cameron last night, both of their first times, and it's very overwhelming. I mean, I think you would be like, oh man, this is crazy. And it is crazy. It's very overwhelming the first time. Even the 3rd time, it's pretty overwhelming. And there are times you're like, well, I want to play this card for this action. Oh wait, I can't because I won't get to trigger the bonuses. So maybe I have to do this first, and hopefully I can get the bonuses because you care about that numerical value. Really good game. It's just fantastic. So that's Zhanguo by What's Your Game?
You know what else is crazy? Captain Sonar's crazy.
Oh, man.
So we got this in on Wednesday, going a little bit back in time here. Captain Sonar, we got to the table.
Back in time.
You are not Huey Lewis.
I watched Back to the Future 1 and 2 this weekend. Anyway.
Because they're on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's super sweet.
I'm seriously going to watch Back to the Future probably like a million times in the next couple months.
Because who knows when they'll... See, I caught on to this in college. I have seen those movies.
Okay.
But it took a while for me to actually see them.
I think Back to the Future probably would have been the straw that broke Sean's camel's back. Had you not seen it?
Yeah. No, you would have absolutely flipped out. No doubt. No, I've definitely seen that movie a lot.
Okay. So anyway, sorry. Captain Sonar.
Yes, Captain Sonar.
Staying on
He's
on
a
course.
hero.
See what I did there? On course?
Gonna take submarines and crush them until they're 0.
Yep.
That's the best I got. You know that reference?
Yeah, it's Captain Planet.
That's right. All right. Moving on. Captain Sonar, a game of up to 8 players, and probably best played with 8 players, I would say.
I think so.
It's Space Cadets Dice Duel-esque in that you have 2 teams going after each other, your rival submarines, navigating your way under the waters and trying to find people. In our game, Sean and I were on the same team.
Yes.
Sean was the captain, steering our submarine around.
Yes.
I was a frequently confused radio operator. So how this works is you have 4 roles on the ship. You have the captain who's steering the ship around. You have the engineer who, every time the ship moves, has to cross off a system, which might disable systems we need to use, depending on what direction we're going. And then there's the first mate who preps certain systems and gets them ready for the captain to deploy. Then there's the radio operator. So those 3 roles are all tied into the workings of the ship. The radio operator is sort of the ops intelligence.
Yeah.
Trying to do recon on the other sub, because you can hear what the other captain is doing. You can't actually look over and see what they're doing, but you can listen over the radio and try and get a sense of where they're going. I got pretty confused at different points here, Sean.
Sure did.
Because you miss one direction or 2 directions, and all of a sudden, I have no idea where this ship is.
Right.
Now, what's cool is the ship will surface and it'll tell you what sector it's in, and you can kind of restart from there and hone in. And I think I was able to provide at some point some amounts of useful information.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot
Yeah.
of times felt pretty lost.
Well, because what's cool is as the captain, you both have the same map. Both captains have the same map, and you pick a starting point. Then as they move, they're going north, south, east, west, and they call that out. And then they draw a little line to the next little dot. And it's kind of like that game Snake, where you can't move back on your path. And then you, as the radio operator, are trying to listen to the other captain. So how was that for you?
Tough, very difficult, because there's a lot of your team's talking, the other team's talking, you're trying to mark things down at certain times. There's times where you have to get completely distracted from whatever you're doing when the sub surfaced, because when the sub surfaces, you have to fill in these little boxes.
Right.
In order to get the ship repaired.
Sure.
And while you're doing that, there's no way you can listen to what the other captain's doing effectively. So it's a tricky job.
But what's cool about the radio operator, though, is that you know the directions they're going, hopefully, but you don't know their point of origin. So you have this transparency over the map that as you're drawing marker on it, you're kind of shifting around, and you go, well, they couldn't have started here because they would have run into this island, and they couldn't be here. And so you're kind of able to kind of, zero in on them. And then the captain or the first mate can activate the sonar or the drones, which can help you kind of narrow that down. It's a really cool game. I really enjoyed this. It's not nearly as stressful as Dice Duel because you're not constantly rolling dice.
Right.
You're just shouting out orders and...
Well, and it's deliberately paced in that way, because as the captain, you shout out an order, I captain.
Right.
There's a pacing to it. It's not go north, go south, go east, go west, go, it's just not that frantic, even though there's a real-time component and you don't want to let people down. So...
Yeah. It was awesome. It was really good. I think this is a great end of the night game. If you've got 8 players there, fantastic. And that's from Madigo.
Yeah, so really enjoyed this one. And Madigo with a pretty good track record recently, because they also did Raptor, which I really enjoyed.
Yep. Madigo also did Kemet and Cyclades.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's Captain Sonar. Well, the last thing I'm going to talk about is Gen Can't, sort of. So we're going to talk a little bit about some news from Fantasy Flight Games over at Gen Con, but I have 2 Fantasy Flight games, 2 big box Fantasy Flight games, Mansions of Madness 2nd edition, which just came out, and then also Star Wars Rebellion. I brought them both with me, these 2 giant games last night, and they just didn't get played. We broke out Mansions of Madness, we punched it, we put all the miniatures together. It looks really cool. It has an app. I'm very excited for that. And then the other night, I put together the Meeple Realty insert for Star Wars Rebellion. I hadn't even punched my copy yet. It's just been sitting in shrink for 2 months now. And I don't know what's going on, because at one point you were really interested in playing it. When it first hit, you were super interested, and I didn't even have a copy then.
I'd still like to play it.
Well, I mentioned it the other day, and you're like, meh.
Oh, yeah, I do want to play
it at some point.
Yes, I do want to play it.
Okay, all right. Well, it's fully punched, and as I was putting together the insert, and as I was punching everything and looking at the minis, and you put 2 parts of the Star Destroyers together, and you build the Death Stars, I am so jonesing to play this game so badly. It looks so cool. I've heard great things. Very excited for this
Bring it
game.
on Wednesday.
Well, it's 2-player though, and
Is it only 2-player?
Well, it plays teams, but from everything I hear, the teams aren't ideal. And for a first play, it's going to take 3-4 hours.
Oh,
for a first play, but reportedly that playtime comes way down once people know what they're doing. Like hour and a half, 2 hours tops.
Got it.
So very cool. And then the Meeple Realty insert, like you mentioned, is fantastic. So obviously this is Fantasy Flight. Obviously they're going to come out with a ton of expansions. So this has some cool card holders with tons of room, tons of dividers, because when they do a bunch of expansions, they're going to do a bunch of cards. It's got compartments for all the different types of units, because you've got the AT-ATs, the ATSTs, you've got the TIE Fighters, the X-Wings, the Y-Wings, the Snow Speeders, you have the Corellian Corvettes, you got all sorts of the different figures and different compartments for all of them. Super well organized. Everyone also has their leaders, it's kind of like a worker placement aspect to the game. And it has this cool little compartment for the Rebel leaders and then for the Imperial leaders, where they kind of just slide in, but they're layered in such a way that you can kind of completely see them. Really cool insert. So if you have Star Wars Rebellion, there's a ton of stuff that comes in that box, and you need an insert for it. Go check out meeplerealty.com, and they'll hook you up over there. So check that out.
Excellent. All right, final thing I'm going to talk about is my Gen Can't experience, or as Sean might derisively say, my Gen Can't experience.
Well, who knows?
Because it wasn't the official Dukes event. But you know what? I'm counting it anyway. I went to Gen Can't this year, Sean.
All right, good job.
So did you. We got in games of Scythe. I actually played 2 games of Scythe this week.
Yeah.
Still undefeated.
Yep.
With a no mech strategy the most recent time, which had been driving me nuts. And I wasn't going into the game trying for no mechs, but anyway, I'll talk a lot more about Scythe later on. Okay. I think you will too.
Will you?
Yes.
Will I?
I think so.
I don't know.
I think it's likely.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure.
We haven't shared lists.
I don't know what's on Sean's top 10 list. He doesn't know what's on my top 10 list. We have pretty good inklings of some of this stuff, so I think Scythe's on your list. That's my prediction, but I don't know for sure.
Apparently it's on your list.
I said last week it's going to be on my list. It's absolutely on my list.
Okay.
All right, we also got in Happy Salmon over at Empire, which was a lot of fun. Victor jumped off of the register and hopped in with us. We had a good 6-player game going. Jillian was there. Jillian got our first plays of Happy Salmon in and made everyone smile. Everyone smiled. Even if everyone wasn't raving about it, everyone smiled. I also bought a copy. Empire had a bunch of them in stock.
I bought a copy.
yeah, I bet you did. So there will be plenty of Happy Salmoning. It is, of course, the official handshake of the Dukes of Dice. Sean, Happy Salmon.
Happy Salmon.
That was 3. That was the exact handshake.
I was going for 4, but that's all right.
No, it's not.
Okay.
That's not official, Sean.
All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We also got in Hanabi Deluxe, and I hadn't played Hanabi in a very long time. Antoine Bauza design. The deluxe version comes with these nice thick tiles.
Yep.
I like it a lot better with the tiles, and I know you're very meh on this game. It worked out really well. I had a ton of fun with Hanabi.
I liked it the first 10, 12 times I played it.
And then it wore out its welcome.
It's good. It's really good.
And maybe it'll wear out its welcome with me too. I don't know. But getting a chance to play it again reminded me, this is a really good design. And partly reminded me why I like Bauza so much.
Oh, yeah.
Because he has a nice diversity of designs and yeah, I know I appreciate Antoine Bauza, and I appreciated this game, and I think it works better in tile form. So that is my Gen Can't experience with Scythe, Happy Salmon, and Hanabi Deluxe. That's what we played. On to the news. As we've mentioned a few times now, this is Gen Con week, so plenty of news out there. Just a couple of items that specifically caught our attention.
Ducal R.
Yeah, Sean, because I forgot to do the news. I normally fill in the news during a week. Totally didn't do that. Went to sleep, didn't do that. Read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child instead. So that's a thing. So back over to news. Fantasy Flight has announced Rune Wars, the miniature game.
Oh, man.
And anytime there's a miniature game, Sean gets drooling. Sean, what are we looking at here?
Well, this is not a typical miniatures board game. This is not a game with miniatures. This is a miniature tactical game, a miniature war game. Think Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So all right. Games Workshop, who has been kind of the granddaddy of a lot of these sci-fi and fantasy war games, miniature war games for 30 years. They've kind of dropped the ball recently. I mean, their production quality, their miniatures themselves are the best they've ever been. Maybe a little bit overcomplicated, like a little bit too hard to put together. Maybe your dwarf in Silver Tower shouldn't require 40 different pieces to put together, but that's fine. They did something with Warhammer Fantasy where they basically blew up the 30 years of history they had and turned it into Age of Sigmar. They got rid of their rank and file system where you have these big blocks of infantry. It's kind of like medieval or I don't know, Renaissance era combat where you have these big blocks of troops and you're maneuvering and you're wheeling and you're outflanking. And I loved that game. I absolutely loved it. It went through eight editions, or maybe 9 editions, and then they blew it up. I stopped playing in 6th edition. Anyway, so this is Fantasy Flight Games getting into this market because they've got X-Wing, they've got, Armada, and they have this whole flight path system, and this is kind of that flight path system. So it's big blocks of infantry, it's rank and file infantry in the world of Terranoth. So in the Rune Wars setting, so you've got the armies of Dakan, and then the undead armies. I think those are probably what they're starting off with, the first 2. And they use these cool bases. I think you're going to have to paint them. All the pictures they showed are these beautifully painted miniatures. I'm sure they're not coming pre-painted. I think it's going to just be the typical kind of Fantasy Flight, like the soft mold, the soft plastic, which is kind of a bummer. I prefer a harder plastic for the style of game, but it looks really cool. Like I said, it uses something similar to the flight path system, where instead of doing like I do my whole turn and you do your whole turn, what you're doing is you're simultaneously assigning these 2 dials to each unit, these unique dials. One of them is the order, and the other is kind of a modification of that order. So maybe the order itself is move, and then the other dial is a modification that says wheel left. And so then you'll reveal all these, and based on which actions you chose will determine the initiative, and then you'll execute these orders, and it looks really cool. I am incredibly excited for this. I've actually been kind of hankering for some miniatures games recently. David and I have been talking about possibly playing Warhammer 40k 4th or 5th edition, preferably 5th edition. They're on like 7th or 8th now. And so this might hit the spot. We need to see the rules, obviously, but I like this kind of initiative system with the dials. It looks really cool. So that's Rune Wars miniature game coming out in Q1 of 2017. Do you have any interest, Alex?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
No.
You played Dust Tactics with me once.
Did I?
Yes. At the old house.
Yeah. I recall this.
2 houses ago.
Yeah, I don't recall enjoying it a ton.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean.
So I'm super excited for Rune Wars miniature game from Fantasy Flight. And they have a ton of other announcements. They've got some more Force Awakens stuff for X-Wing, some stuff for Armada. They've got a new skirmish playmats, I guess, for Imperial Assault. So lots of cool stuff. Lots of cool stuff happening in Gen Con. It's kind of hard to aggregate it all right now. But anyway, that's one thing that caught my eye. So way to go, Fantasy Flight.
Hooray! All right, next up, Rising Sun is announced at Gen Con. This is an Eric Lang game. Sean, tell us about this one.
So they're calling this the spiritual successor to Blood Rage, in the sense that it has the same designer, obviously, the same studio that's doing all the sculpts of the minis. It's Studio McVeigh. And if Blood Rage owes its parentage to Risk, which I don't know that I agree with that, this is what they're saying, their kind of release information, then this game owes its lineage to Diplomacy.
Uh-oh.
Well, I don't think it's going to be... think of it in this way. If Blood Rage is a refinement on Dudes on a Map, which I know you're not crazy about Blood Rage, then I think that this is kind of a refinement on Diplomacy as well, which is also probably
not... That sounds like you're taking Blood Rage and making it even worse for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for this. So it's a game about honor, negotiation, warfare in feudal Japan, where the ancient gods have returned to rebuild the empire. And it's got some sweet miniatures that you would expect from Studio McVeigh and Cool Mini or Not. So you're doing negotiations, you're forming alliances, capturing hostages, committing seppuku. There's an honor track where you can kind of gain and lose honor. I don't know if that's the VP or if that's another kind of currency. It's Eric Lang, one of my favorite designers. Studio McVeigh with Cool Mini or Not doing amazing miniatures, which I love. I am very excited for this. I think it sounds just fantastic. It's going to be Kickstarter sometime in 2017.
You have fun with that.
Wow. All right.
And I'm probably going to have to review it.
Probably. It's probably going to be one of the hottest games of next year.
We're going to be talking about survey results later, but it was funny. There was one person who chimed in and said, "Hey, Sean, let Alex pick more of the games we review."
Well, what happens when you pick the games? What was that one game that you're like, we should review this, and then you played it once?
Bad Detective?
Bad Detective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, I don't know here. You're like, no, it looks really good. Then you played it, you're like, yeah, this isn't good.
We don't have to always review things we like, Sean.
No, but,
All right, no Kickstarter this week, so that's our look at the news.
Hey everybody, this is Sean, and I just want to take a quick second to tell you about Meeple Realty's latest insert for Tricarion from Ape Games. Meeple Realty's Tricarion Theater is the official insert for the great game Tricarion, which is about performing tricks, although I prefer the word illusions. It features individual player trays, card trays for all the cards you need during the game and for setup, a unique mechanical resource tray, and a book tray that will hold the player aid and specialist board. You should head on over to meeplerealty.com to look at how amazing this insert is, and in fact, take a look at some of their other great inserts for some of your favorite games. Meeple Realty brings some of their amazing expertise and fine craftsmanship to bring you high-quality, innovative inserts engineered to improve your play experience and speed up setup and breakdown of some of your favorite games.
Meeple Realty, think inside the box. As is Dutchy tradition, this is our 2-year Duke-iversary, and the third time we will be doing a top 10 list. Here it is, our top 10 of all time in 2016.
I don't know about you, Alex, but this year was especially tough for me.
Bonkers difficult.
Yeah.
Crazy difficult.
Well, like you said, we started our very first episode, episode 1, Meet the Dukes, with our top 10 list, just to kind of give everyone a feel of the kind of games that we liked. And so that we did that last year, and now we're doing it again this year. So where did we start? I'm curious what our 2014 games were. Let's just read them off real quick.
I started off very different from where I've ended up. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I think my change is more dramatic than your change.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more solidity.
Which makes sense because you had more of a board gaming background, more of a taste coming into the show.
Sure.
So my number 10 was Rampage, number 9, Castles of Burgundy, number 8, Descent, number 7, Resistance Avalon, number 6, Lords of Vegas, number 5, King of Tokyo, number 4, Coup, number 3, Pathfinder, Rise of the Rune Lords, number 2, Puzzle Strike, number 1, Seven Wonders.
Interesting.
Yeah. Some of those are not on this list anymore.
Yeah, good number, I'm guessing.
Possibly all of them.
Really?
Possibly.
Oh, wow, interesting. All right, so mine back in 2014 when we first started. Number 10, Descent 2nd Edition. Number 9, Twilight Struggle. Number 8, The Resistance Avalon. Number 7, Kemet. Number 6, Eldritch Horror. Number 5, Lords of Vegas. Both of us had that there. Number 4, Russian Railroads. Number 3, Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Number 2, Terra Mystica. And number 1, Zolkin, the Mayan calendar.
Yep.
Oh.
And was that first episode we also had a game chord on Zolkin, or was that later?
Maybe. Or was that? I don't remember.
I don't want to go back and listen to that episode because I have a feeling I'm going to sound silly.
Okay.
I don't know. All right. Next year, I'd gotten a few more plays in, a whole year of the show, and the list had developed a bit.
Is this list somewhat similar to your list this year? I mean, obviously, there's probably going to be change.
It bears more resemblance than the 2014 list.
Okay.
Without spoiling how many have moved along, there's certainly many of these games are still on my list. Yes. So my number 10, Lords of Vegas. Number 9, Neuroshima Hex. Number 8, Castles of Burgundy. Number 7, Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Number 6, Power Grid. 5, Smash Up. 4, Seven Wonders. 3, Patchwork. 2, Sheriff of Nottingham. 1, Baseball Highlights 2045.
Interesting. Okay. So my list last year, number 10, Kemet. Number 9, Sheriff of Nottingham. So that had fallen a bit. Wait, was it even on? No, it wasn't on. Never mind. Ignore that. That was stupid. Number 8, Pathfinder, the adventure card game. Number 7, Roll for the Galaxy. Number 6, Resistance Avalon. 5, Star Wars Imperial Assault. 4, Caverna. 3, Castles of Burgundy. And number 2, Zolkin, it fell. And number 1, Terra Mystica. So those two had kind of switched spots there. So Alex, if you had to predict, what would be your predictions for mine? And I won't respond in any way, shape, or form. Any predictions?
So my prediction is obviously Matainai is on this list, and it's very high on this list.
Okay.
I think it's 1 or 2.
Okay.
My guess, if I had to hedge, is going to be number 2. It bumps Zolkin down a spot.
Okay.
That's my guess. Terra Mystica still stays at number 1 is my guess.
All right.
The thing I worry about is you played Zolkin last night for Gen Cant. And I don't know if that maybe bumped it up.
All I'll say is this. That play of Zolkin last night has not affected the list at all.
Fair enough.
But it was awesome.
I think Kemet climbs significantly higher on your list than where it is now. I think Sheriff of Nottingham drops off of the list.
Okay.
What else goes on the list? I don't think Baseball Highlights goes on. I think Millennium Blades has a shot, but I don't think it goes on. I think Scythe definitely goes on, but I couldn't tell you where.
Okay.
Broadly speaking, those are my predictions.
So I think Neuroshima Hex falls off your list.
Okay.
I think that this might be the year that Pathfinder falls off.
Okay.
I could see it clinging on, possibly. Baseball Highlights is not getting affected. It's going to say number 1.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. I can say that with 100% certainty.
By the way, first mention.
Yeah. Yes, I get first mention. Sheriff probably falls a bit. Seven Wonders might come off altogether. I think it might come off altogether.
Okay.
And, of course, Motana is going to make an appearance. Scythe is going to make an appearance. And I think those are some solid predictions.
Where do you think Scythe is?
I think Scythe is solidly in the middle. It's going to be somewhere in like the 5-6 range.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So, all right. So real quick, I do have my honorable mentions. My methodology was I had a list of about 14 games that I was like no-brainers. And then I kind of went through some other things just to make sure, did I miss anything? No. These were the 14 that just totally stuck out in my mind as they would have a shot at this easily. So my honorable mentions in no particular order. Battle Lore 2nd Edition has fallen off. Not fallen off. Battle Lore 2nd Edition, a game that I love. It has never made an appearance on the list, but it definitely had a good shot at it. Millennium Blades, a relatively new game. I love this game so much. One of our Boxcars Awards winners. It just barely didn't make it, but I really, really enjoyed it. Caverna, formerly my number 4 game. Part of it was I'm like, well, there are other games that kind of feel this way, haven't gotten to the table a lot. I might like Le Havre better. So it fell off the list altogether. And then the last honorable mention for me, Five Tribes, a game that I never would have considered for my top 10 since it came out until the last maybe 6 months or so. And I've just really come to love this game quite a bit. But yeah, it just fell short. So Five Tribes, Caverna, Millennium Blades, and Battle Lore 2nd Edition.
So my methodology involved writing down a bunch of games I really liked and then staring at the list really hard until things made sense. That was the gist. This was agonizing. Absolutely agonizing. So I had 5 honorable mentions I want to mention really quickly. Pandemic Legacy Season 1, I considered it for the list. And it's just we haven't been able to complete it, and it bums me out that we haven't been able to complete it. And it's hard to compare. It is incredibly hard to compare a lot of these games. I mean, you're comparing a Pandemic Legacy to a game that's replayable. It's tough. But in terms of gaming memories, this is way up there in terms of gaming memories for me, for sure. Smash Up falls off the list.
Okay.
Smash Up, I really enjoy.
Yeah, I would have said that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's fine. A lot of replayability in it. I just haven't gotten it to the table as much recently.
Okay.
And I think there's another game that has that feel that does it better. That did make my list.
Okay.
Seven Wonders did fall off of the list. It's in the honorable mentions. I really enjoyed still, but it's another one of those that I haven't had the burning urge to necessarily play. I'd really like to try it with Babel, based off of your recommendation. Apparently it's really, really good with Babel. I guess I've just kind of moved on a little bit from that. Formerly number 1 game of all time, dropped to 4, and now just off the list. It's still in honorable mentions. Really have a good thought and feeling about this game, but it's just, not quite there. And then this is tricky. So when I left the house to come over here to record the podcast, one game was in number 10. Then when we started recording the episode during the drive, I switched in another game. Then midway through this episode, you had to go upstairs to deal with Chewy, and I switched another game in.
Woo.
I feel good about the one I'm locked in on, but that shows you how tenuous this is. Just off of the list, Aquasphere.
Really?
I gave it a 6. I said it was my favorite Feld at the time.
Yeah.
And just ahead of Castles of Burgundy, which also just didn't make the list.
Ooh.
Both very close. Castles of Burgundy was very close to being the only game that persisted from the first list I made to this list.
Okay.
Other than that entire 2014 list, gone.
Wow.
Gone in terms of on the top 10. Castles of Burgundy, fantastic. I haven't played it recently enough, and it's held back a bit by components and the fiddliness factor to it.
Sure.
But there's a really brilliant game built in there.
Yeah.
Really brilliant. Aquasphere, I enjoy more. It's obviously fiddly as well, but I enjoy it more thematically. I tell the stories of the squid cleaning and the crystals, and it's baked into that a little bit more. I enjoy the programming piece of it. I think that's really well done. They're neck and neck in terms of my favorite Feld. I mean, they're both right there.
But both fell off.
Both.
Just barely.
Yeah, both were at one point on the list.
Yeah.
But then were replaced by my number 10 game.
Wow. Interesting.
Very, very close.
So if you can hear this, these are my index cards, and so these are my 14 cards that I had.
Those are very thin index cards.
Well, they're paper.
Not good card quality.
Were you looking through
No,
the
I
back?
haven't seen anything on your list.
It kind of bleeds through.
No, I can't see anything.
Bleeds through the back. Anyway, I'm gonna get something to cover that up because I don't trust you. So what I would do is I would kind of put one card out and then put another card out, and I said, okay, is this game higher or lower than this? And I did this 5 total times, and I wrote down the list of each of those. Then I kind of looked at those lists. I noticed that there were some, like my 4, 5, 6 were always identical. Always identical. They always came in that spot. So I'm like, okay. And my 1, 2, and 3 were always within one of each other. Like, it was pretty set. So the hardest ones were 7, 8, 9, 10. I had Raquel help me at one point, just kind of to help me like talk things through. Max sat down with me last night at Gen Cant, just kind of again to kind of talk things through. And so I've come up with a list here. And again, I'm, man, yeah, this bottom couple is really rough. So
the bottom tier was brutal. The top tier was much easier for me, for sure. I had that same experience.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it, Alex. Our number 10.
Number 10.
All right, my number 10 just snuck onto the list, just barely. Millennium Blades.
Okay.
From Level 99 Games. It is fantastic. I mentioned a week ago I had 2 transcendent gaming experiences this year.
Right.
Millennium Blades and Scythe. I'm curious to see what could knock off those games. Obviously, there's plenty more year left, but what could knock off those 2 games as games I enjoyed most?
Sure.
Millennium Blades could potentially get even higher on this list. I'd say the trend with Millennium Blades is actually up.
Okay.
Because the more I play it, the more I seem to enjoy it. The combinations here are brilliant. The real-time component to this is very well done, very well integrated into this. I love the deck-building piece of this, but it combines the tactical card game elements that I tend to like in games. There's a lot of ways to win. The replayability on this and the variability on this is off the chain.
Yeah.
Completely off the chain.
This isn't the one that replaces Smash Up, right?
It is the one that, in my mind, replaces Smash Up.
Okay.
Because Smash Up has that building 2 decks together. They obviously they're very different games in how they play. I will freely admit that. But in terms of that game that just provides all of that juicy variability that I love in a game, this is one of them.
Yeah.
So Millennium Blades sneaks on at number 10. It was originally rated a 5 by me.
Right.
Because I couldn't ever see buying it, but I've recommended this game to so many people. I still continue to recommend this game to so many people. It's a clear one, number 10. I think Brad and company over at Level 99 did a fantastic job with Millennium Blades.
And like I said, it was a very close honorable mention. It was on my top 10 at a certain point. So fantastic. It's a Boxcars Award winner. Very deserving. My number 10 is Roll for the Galaxy, a game that was on my list last year. It was number 7, so it's fallen a little bit. I love this game. I love Race for the Galaxy, but I like Roll a little bit better. It's a little bit more accessible for new players. I feel like I can get this game out in so many situations. I love the dice rolling. I love the mitigation. I love the different strategies, digging through the bag. This was my number 1 game of 2014, 2015 at some point, but then weird stuff happened. But anyway, I love this game. And Raquel asks for this game all the time. I feel like it's such an easy game to just pull out. It plays a good number of players. It plays well at 2, plays well at 3. Just fantastic. I love Roll for the Galaxy. So yeah, that's Roll for the Galaxy from Rio Grande Games.
Number 9.
Well, Alex, here it is. Scythe.
Okay.
My number 9 game, Stonemaier Games, designed by Jamie Stegmaier. This game is fantastic, and I've struggled with this because this game is so new. This game, it's not a product of hype, but there's been hype, so much hype surrounding this game. And I actually got into a little Facebook tiff the other day with some random person.
Fighting for Scythe's honor.
Well, because they're like, well, I think that once all the hype dies down, I think that people will realize it's not that good of a game. And it's like, well, hold on. People could like this game not just because of the hype. Hype can play a factor, sure, but people can actually legitimately like this game. And so I kind of took umbrage with the fact that people only like it because they can't recognize their own biases and the hype surrounding it.
How many plays of this have you gotten in?
I have 10 plays of this game now.
For having it be out that short of a period of time,
it's unheard of.
Is nuts.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I think that this has the potential to go much higher up on this list. I am erring on the side of caution. The fact that it's even on my list right now is a little. It feels weird to me because it is so new, and is there some aspect of hype here? Is there some aspect that I'm so excited about this game right now? Yeah, sure. Will I still be excited about this game a year from now? I think so. I think I know myself enough. I know my gaming tastes, my gaming preferences well enough to know that this game is just in such a sweet spot for me that, yeah, I'm going to really enjoy this game a year from now. I would be incredibly surprised if this fell off my top 10. I would expect this to actually go up a little bit higher. Yeah, so that's Scythe by Stonemaier Games. Great job, Jamie. Fantastic.
My number 9, down a couple spots from a year ago, is Pathfinder, the adventure card game.
Okay.
It absolutely sticks around.
Okay.
Down to too much of a history with this one, and when we broke it out recently to try and start playing after podcasts more, it was just great to get back into it. It was that same kind of that feel.
Except when you got greedy.
I definitely got greedy, and it cost us. And that happens. But we've told the stories. We've told the stories of Sean as Ezrin becoming the all-powerful demigod by just scooping up all the items that everyone else left behind. And I'd love to continue that story at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to continue that story. It was a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And because of that alone, it deserves to stay on the list. But then, luckily enough, we've had a chance to resurrect it a little bit, and I've had good times with that newer version too.
Sure.
So no reason to knock it off the list. It's still on there. Number 9, Pathfinder adventure card game.
Number 8.
My number 8, Sean is going to poo-poo, I assure you. This is a new entry on my list. This is Mysterium.
No, that's
on
fine.
there, number 8.
That's fine.
This is one that I first played a year ago, and I had considered it for the top 10, but just had not felt like I'd had enough plays of it, wasn't sure exactly what kind of staying power it would have. Spoiler alert, this has had a ton of staying power. A ton of staying power. This is one that I've broken out at family reunions. This is one I've broken out with folks from work. This is one I've broken out with gamers. And it has been universally well received. It is a simple game mechanically as long as you don't throw on the extra US rules. It's one of the rare games I own 2 versions of.
Yeah.
I own the Polish edition and I own the US edition. And I just think it's fantastic, especially when you add in the US components, when you add in that player board, and then ignore everything else the US version adds, except for the components. It comes out tremendously well. I enjoy that there's an expansion for it to add a little bit of variability. I enjoy that the rules are flexible enough to where you can adjust the difficulty easily. It's done incredibly well, and it's one that has become a pretty permanent fixture of my gaming rotation. So that's Mysterium.
Very cool. Well, my number 8 is a game that I've predicted would make my top 10 list since I first got a play of this in. And maybe there's some self-fulfilling prophecy in there, but I love this game so much. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about right now?
Actually, no.
Oh, all right. Eric Lang design?
Blood Rage?
No.
Oh.
No. I give Blood Rage a 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Arcadia Quest.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Completely slipped my mind. Yes.
So, you can kind of call this a dungeon crawl, except it's not really. You're not really doing any exploration. It's not cooperative. It's kind of semi-cooperative in the fact that you're all fighting the same monsters together, but then there's also a PvP element where you're attacking one another. It has these really cute little chibi miniatures, fantastic miniatures. They look great painted. Our buddy Jeremy has got a painted copy that we've been playing. And so it has it feels like an arcade game. It feels like there's just a quick nature to it. Your guys die really easily, but then they pop back up. There's that little bit of character progression as they get newer equipment and things like that throughout the course of the campaign. It's not like a super involved campaign game, but it's great. I love this. I'm super excited to play other campaigns. I'm super excited for Inferno. I think when the Inferno expansion, standalone expansion comes out, should be soon, I thought. Oh, I think it got delayed. But when that comes out, then maybe we can talk about reviewing it, giving it a proper review, because I know you enjoyed your one play of it.
I did.
Yeah, so
I got super annoyed that you started up the campaign without me.
Blame Jeremy. I'll blame Jeremy for that.
That's not Jeremy's. That's on you.
Is it on me?
It's probably on you.
Okay. Well,
it might be
enough.
Jeremy though too.
So yeah, I absolutely love Arcadia Quest. Just such a brilliant design, and just a ton of fun. It's just a fun, quick game. It's great. So that's my number 8, Arcadia Quest from Cool Mini or Not, and designed by Eric Lang.
Number 7.
All right, my number 7. You just talked about, Alex, Pathfinder, the adventure card game.
Very nice.
I love this game, and no, we don't get to play it as often as we'd like, but kind of the same things you talked about, those memories. Some people either love this game or they hate it. They say that the whole system of like searching for the villain in the different decks is kind of tedious or whatever, but I really enjoy it. There's a strategy to it. There's some tactics to it. I love that feeling of flipping over an encounter and it's a brand new piece of equipment that you're just dying for, and then that feeling of you getting to use it the next scenario or whatever, and you get those little progressions. You get the skill increases. You get new abilities. I just love this game. I love that aspect of a campaign style play where your character gets better and better. And this game, I think, is one of the best at it.
It's super tense.
Yeah.
Super tense.
I just love this game. I can't say enough about it. I'm excited for the new one coming out. It's got like an Egyptian theme, although it's, in the Pathfinder world itself. And I just really hope that Paizo and Mike Selinker come up with an advanced campaign for leveled up characters that have completed one campaign. But it's nice because we've got the rest of the Wrath of the Righteous to go through. We've got the Skull and Shackles that we can go back through. And then even after you've played through this, I'm more than happy, time permitting, and I don't know when that's going to be, of playing through these scenarios or these campaigns again with different characters, because there's like 12 different characters in each box. So
Right.
Just a ton of stuff. I love it. Pathfinder the Adventure Card Game.
All right, my number 7, down a spot from last year's list, is Power Grid. Power Grid makes its way on there. Friedman Freeze design. This was actually the first board game I ever bought, and also the first I ever got rid of, oddly enough, without ever playing it. And I'd been told, yeah, you're probably going to like this. And until I actually got a chance to play it, didn't realize just how much I would like this. This one uses auctions in a brilliant way, uses route building in an engaging way. I like the balancing act of trying to pick up that one power plant. Hey, do I need to transition out of coal into nuclear? I enjoy the decisions you have to make in this game. It is certainly very mathy experience, but it's a game that I need to get in my collection at some point because it's one that's worth breaking out with other folks. I dig Power Grid big time. I don't know where you're at with Power Grid, Sean.
It's a solid 5.
Okay.
It's a solid 5 for me.
Yeah, enjoyable, but yeah, not a contender. That's fine. But it persists on the list. I think it's tremendous, and every time I've played it, I've had a great experience with it. So nothing bad to say about Power Grid. It's my number 7 game of all time.
Number 6.
My number 6, down a few spots from last year, is Patchwork. Patchwork, Sean. Probably one of the best, if not the best, straight-up two-player games that I know of. It's not the best. I take that back. Apologies. But it is fantastic. It's the quintessential, elegantly designed game with simple mechanics, but with rewarding gameplay. And I've heard, my brother said this, and it drove me crazy, that this is two-player solitaire.
Yeah, no.
And I don't agree with that because I think the decisions you make in this game on what you're purchasing, how you're putting it on your board, how you're fitting it in, trying to angle for a patch, trying to work the time to try and get patches on your board is tremendously rewarding. It fits in a relatively small box, but the experience is very deep for a very short rulebook, very, very small rule set with a ton of depth. I love the Tetris-y feel. I think the components are nice. It looks great on the table. It's a brilliantly designed game, which is no surprise given that it's done by Uwe Rosenberg. So Patchwork is my number 6 game of all time.
Very cool. So my number 6 was my number 6 last year. The Resistance Avalon.
Okay.
Yeah, I just love this game. So I prefer Avalon to regular Resistance, although I do have the expansion that lets you essentially make regular Resistance into Avalon. This is one of those hidden role games where you're trying to figure out who the spies are and if you're the spy, or one of the spies, you're trying to tank the missions for the loyalists to Arthur, and you're trying to root them out if you're the loyalist and have enough successes. And this is a game I am just so good at. I love kind of finding the little cues from people, the little ticks, the logical inconsistencies and why they're doing certain things. And I'm able to piece all of that together in a way that just makes me really good at this game.
Yeah.
So, and I think that if I weren't so good, I'd still probably like this quite a bit, but I still think that the fact that I am so good probably helps it a lot. And I'm always looking for a game of this genre that, I said genre. No, genre.
Genre?
The genre. I'm always looking for a game to replace Avalon because not that I want it replaced, but I love this game so much that if a new social deduction game comes out that I think is better than Avalon, then that's great. I mean, that means it's stellar. And there's a lot of good ones that have come out in the last couple of years, but nothing comes close in my estimation to the Resistance Avalon. And I think it's fantastic. I do have the Lancelot promo, which has been like out of stock forever, which I'm excited for. The Lancelot actually can switch teams. Which is really cool. Yeah, we need to play that soon. I'm jonesing for some Avalon. I really enjoy it. But that's my number 6, the Resistance Avalon from Indie Board and Cards.
Number 5.
All right, Alex. Here it is. Number 5, Motainai.
Oh, I was wrong.
Not as high up as you thought.
Okay,
but number 5. So it's debuting on the list, obviously at number 5. Just a fantastic game. This is my favorite Carl Chudik game, and I've come to enjoy most of his games. Glory to Rome is fantastic. I've got 2 plays of Impulse in, also fantastic. Innovation has a bit more, well, not a bit more, but it has a learning curve, and I haven't quite played it enough to really get a good feel for it, but I think I would come to like Innovation once I get some more plays of it in. Maybe I should get your copy of Innovation, Alex.
Nah.
Okay. You haven't played it yet.
I definitely haven't played it yet.
But Motainai was my game of 2015, my game of the year. I love this game so much. It's a game that fortunately we have enough players here in Albuquerque, in part because of us, but also I know Matthew likes it a lot and Rory likes it a lot, but we've really pushed this game quite a bit because we enjoy it so much. And this is a game that rewards multiple plays, rewards mastery, because it's difficult. It's a difficult game. It is that kind of Carl Chudik classic where you have cards that have multiple uses. You're tucking them to get certain bonus actions, to take different kinds of actions. And it is just so beautiful, so elegant. A lot of people prefer Glory to Rome to this game, and this is its spiritual successor. But Glory to Rome feels more incremental. You're kind of doing things incrementally. And you can have a big turn, but this game is all about these big sweeping actions. And I love, like, when you and I can get a game in of this, or a series of this in, when we can do it with Mike Fitzgerald, because it's his number one game of all time. It's just so tense. It feels like a chess match almost. And there's no wasted moves, because you can't. You're gonna fall too far behind. This is just such a fantastic game. There is no way this couldn't be on my list. And I think number 5 is a pretty decent. I mean, anywhere is fine. Anywhere is really good. But number 5 is pretty high up there.
Yeah, I thought it would be higher for some reason, but I can understand why it's where it is. I'm curious to see what's ahead of it on your list. So, cool.
That's Motainai, my number 5 game from Asmati Games.
All right, my number 5 game of all time. Another new addition to the list. And another Uwe Rosenberg game. It's Glass Road. So this one took everything I loved about Broom Service, and I'm a big fan of Broom Service. I love this bluffing, weak action, strong action, cowardly versus brave action.
Right.
With the movement on the board. This takes that and it brings it to another level. It adds more variability. It adds more of an ability to control what you're doing on your board. It allows you to shift into different strategies. I had a fantastic time with Glass Road, and happy to bring this out and teach folks anytime. There's so many different ways you can win, so many different ways you can score points, and it's the brain burner of an Uwe game that works really well for me. Le Havre is a little too much. Caverna is a little too fiddly with too much setup. This one, on the other hand, is the perfect sweet spot. It's quintessential Uwe. It belongs on my top 5, obviously at the low end of my top 5, because it's number 5, but I think it is fantastic, and I'd like to play it more. Interesting.
Well, there's an app. You should download the app.
Maybe I should.
All right.
So that's my number 5, Glass Road by Uwe Rosenberg.
And Z-Man Games.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4, down a couple of spots from last year, Sheriff of Nottingham. Sheriff of Nottingham coming in here. This is my favorite bluffing game. This is another one, I don't know if elegant's the right word, but it does this piece of bluffing in such a rewarding way. Such a, I got one past you, or I'm the sheriff and I caught you. It's one where if you make mistakes, you're laughing about them. You're not, shaking your head and tearing out your hair. It's one where you can make the wrong move every time and still have fun. I really enjoy Sheriff of Nottingham. I think it does bluffing in such a brilliant, beautiful way. And this is sort of, I should say, in my top 5, there's a big chasm between this and 3-2-1. If I'm going to throw it out there. But in any case, Sheriff of Nottingham, really, really enjoyed this game. Arcane Wonders did a great job with this one. And it's one that I will play anytime and oftentimes teach.
Very cool. My number 4, Castles of Burgundy.
Oh.
Yeah. So this fell a spot. This was number 3 last year, and now it's number 4. But I love this game. This is easily my favorite Stefan Feld game. And it is, we've talked about this a million times, it is so drab looking. The components are meh, but the gameplay is just so good. You are basically rolling some dice, and that determines which actions you can take. You're taking these specific tiles from the main board, putting it in your little estate, and then you're able to place them in your board and match in certain ways, and you get bonuses as you place certain types of buildings. I love Castles of Burgundy. There was a question whether it was my favorite Feld for a while, and I think I like Trajan more, I like Bora Bora more at one point. And I said, well, but I think Castles is probably the best design, but it's not necessarily my favorite. And that's no longer the case. I mean, it is my favorite Feld game, without question. It's just so good. I've played it a ton in the last year. I've played it a ton online, a ton in real life. This is one of Raquel's favorites to break out, and it's just so good. So that is Castles of Burgundy by Alea and Ravensburger.
Number 3.
All right. Well, how the mighty have fallen, Alex.
Not that far.
No, not that far. But, for as much as I love Zolkin, which was my number 1 when we first started, my number 2 last year, Zolkin has now fallen yet again to number 3. Zolkin the Mayan Calendar by Czech Games Edition. It's so good, and I got to play it last night, and I haven't got to play it a lot in the last year because a lot of people don't want to play it because there is such an aspect to it of the experienced player is just going to cream a new player, especially. So we played last night with, do we have 3 players? Yeah. It was Cameron, Max, and I. And what was crazy was I had one of the best early games I've ever had. I mean, fantastic early game. And then I kind of, I missed a couple things late game, and I barely won. I beat Max by 2 points.
Wow.
So he said on Twitter that he's chalking it up to a victory for him. So yeah, because I scored in the 60s. Normally I score in like the 90s to 110s. So anyway, this game, what I love so much is that this has these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interlocking gears that interlock with this main central gear. And so time is a resource. It's a worker placement game where you're deploying workers, and the longer you leave them on these gears, they rotate, and the actions that they're able to take become more and more powerful. And I love that aspect of it. It's really difficult. It's such a thinky game. You have to plan ahead. You're building these different buildings, you're moving up on temple tracks, you're improving technologies to get different bonuses. There's a little bit of engine building in it. And I think it's at a point now that your tastes have changed enough that you may tolerate this more than you have.
Tolerate's the right word.
Yeah, I don't think you'll love it.
Because even looking at it and thinking of it, I just have such a negative impression in my mind that that's going to be tough to overcome. But I'm happy to try it at some point. Probably not playing against you.
Yeah, and that's fair. So that's my number 3, Tzolk'in the Mind Calendar from CGE.
All right, my number 3, I threw caution to the wind here, Sean. Completely threw caution to the wind. Scythe, my number 3 game of all time.
Yeah, you sure did.
I completely threw caution to the wind. But here's the thing. We were talking about earlier with yours, how you have never played a game that many times within the span of us reviewing it, even after reviewing it.
Right.
This is one I've not just played happily. This is one I've actively suggested people get to the table. And yeah, there's an excuse of, oh, well, you haven't tried it, you really need to try it. But there's also a big component of, man, I have so much fun playing this game. I am so enthralled and engaged by the number of different ways you can win on this, by how it combines Euro rules and Ameritrash. And it's dudes on a map, but it's done in a way that I really enjoy. There's a lot going on in this game, a ton going on. And even having played it now 6 times, I still think there's a lot to explore in terms of strategy and playing against more experienced players. I'm excited to see. I need to play against you at some point here. I'm sure that'll happen.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 6-0. I know you want to put a loss on that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And I think part of my love for it maybe is that I've grokked the game so easily.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. I still haven't found a good way to pinpoint it, but every game has somehow worked out. I played as the blue guys, the guys who have an ability with workers to spread them out. And I played the most aggressive game I've ever played. Got into 8 combats in the game.
Wow.
Only got 2 stars as a result of it. Was it 0 popularity? Still won.
Yeah.
I had a recent game this time. I was one popularity away from the 3rd tier popularity. 1 notch away. Did a game where I built no mechs whatsoever with Polania. Only used Polania's ability once and still won.
Yeah.
Clearly. I love the possibilities that this game opens up. I love the variability. The art is stunning. The components are stunning. And I talk about this game, I mentioned that chasm between 3 and 4. Last year, that chasm was between 2 and 1 for me.
Right.
This year, there's 3 games that I put up in this one tier of, have to play.
Sure.
And who knows? Maybe I'm just on the hype train really early, and maybe come a year from now, I'll have realized the error of my ways.
Probably not.
I don't think so. I really, 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 really love this game, and love is the right word.
Do you love this game?
I love this game.
I wasn't clear by...
Really a lot.
Uh-huh.
It is superb, and I can't wait for the expansions. This is one where I'd probably buy it if everyone I knew didn't already own a copy.
We have 8 in our
Literally
playgroup.
everyone I know has a copy of this.
Well, no, not literally.
Okay, not literally. That's a little too far. But yes, it's high up on the list. Yes, it's only been out in the past few weeks. Yes, we only reviewed this last week.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's in that tier for me. Clearly in that tier for me.
Cool.
So that's Scythe, my number 3 of all time.
Number 2.
All right, my number 2 of all time is Matainai.
Oh, yeah, I figured.
New addition to the list.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah, pretty well pegged on that one. And Matainai, superb. It's probably the one I've played the most since we did our list a year ago.
Okay.
In terms of sheer number of plays. Played it with Mike, had a great time with you doing best of 3s. And there was a point where I was sitting at Dice Tower Con and I was playing with Mike where I sat and thought, man, is this better than Baseball Highlights 2045?
Ooh.
And then I played later in the con, and that kind of got shook from my mind. It didn't quite get there. But how many cards are in a deck of Matainai?
54.
54. How many ways are there to win in a game of Matainai?
52.
Yeah,
a lot.
It's
a
in
lot.
that range.
Yeah.
I've never had a game that's ended in so many different, interesting ways. Tense finishes where you're not sure whether you might need the tiebreaker to win. Using different, I've still, even now, find different ways to play this game and to win at this game and to do well at this game. I have a lot of fun with this. It's brilliantly done. It's a true masterwork in game design in my eyes.
Yeah.
Matainai is. And for that reason, it deserves its spot on that list. It's odd. I think I mentioned this when we did our top 10 of 2015, that my top 2 were my top 2 favorites of all time. If we had a chance to do the list, it's kind of still the case.
Sure.
Not to spoil number 1, which was spoiled if anyone's ever listened to an episode of the show ever.
Yeah.
All right. So that's my number 2, Matainai.
My number 2, Alex, there's a bit of an upset. Last year's number 1 game, Terra Mystica, has fallen to number 2. It's returning.
And I know it replaced it.
It's returning to its spot in 2014. In 2014, it was number 2. Last year's number 1. Now it's back to number 2. Wait, don't say it, but mouth what number 1 is. So yeah,
I'm right.
Yeah, you're right. So anyway, let's talk about Terra Mystica. I've gotten to play this game 3 times in the last 2 months, which is a lot because it's a longer game. Usually teaching someone new. One of the inspirations for Scythe. And this is just such a great game. It is super thinky. You are this different fantasy race that is trying to expand your little empire, building these different types of buildings. There's some engine building because you're getting different types of different resources. You're getting power, you're getting workers, you're getting money for building these different types of buildings. You're trying to play to a particular round bonus. You're trying to play to the temple track bonuses. It is rough. It is a rough game. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at explaining the rules in a pretty concise way. Mariah played it, which it's definitely not her style of game, but she liked it. Raquel really enjoys this game. It is a fantastic, fantastic game. I'm curious to have you play this again.
Of your top 3, this is the one I'm most eager to play again.
And it's a game I don't win a lot. Like I lose Terra Mystica quite often. I'm usually there in like 2nd or 3rd. But it's just so great. And there's so much variability because you have all these different races. You have, what do you have now? Like 20 different races, which is insane. And they all play so differently. It is just a fantastic game. I'm happy to have it in my collection. I'm happy to have the brand new insert because I used to have it in 2 boxes. Now it all fits in 1 box with the Meeple Realty insert. It's just great. I love Terra Mystica. And number 2 now, but what can you do? All right, well, we're at the top of the list, Alex. I think yours is a no-brainer. Mine, people can maybe have figured out.
Oh, yeah.
So let's do this.
Number 1.
Well, my number 1 game was number 10 last year, number 7 the year before. It's Kemet. Oh, I love Kemet so much.
Was it the expansion that pushed it over the top?
It was not the expansion. The expansion's great. The expansion adds the black pyramid tiles, which are fantastic. I mean, I don't want to play without them. It adds the priest track, which adds another level of AP, another level of planning for, and there's some other parts of the expansion I'm not crazy about. But what really did it was all of the plays of Kemet I got leading up to the review that Suzanne and I did for the expansion just really cemented how much I love this game. I love the tension of it. I love the buying different power tiles to customize your little kingdom or whatever. The quick nature of building up your forces and then smashing into someone else, trying to hold out, trying to build up the right combination, the right combos of power tiles in such a way that you're gonna be successful, whatever strategy you're taking. This is a game that doesn't get out as often as I'd like. It takes a decent amount of time. I mean, if everyone knows what they're doing at 5 players, it's going to be a good 2.5 hours. If everyone's kind of playing this for the first or second time, it could be 3, 4, or more hours. But that time goes pretty quickly for me.
If you're at a convention, it could be like 7 hours.
Yeah, so I've played now. It's my kind of Dice Tower Con tradition to play Kemet there. It's just such a good game. And when I really sat down and thought about it, this kind of hybrid Euro dudes on a map, that's kind of my sweet spot. I mean, I don't know. But it's just such a good game. And I enjoy the tension of it. I enjoy the customization. I love Kemet. And the more I thought about it, because Kemet was kind of up in the top half, I'm like, well, no, it beats this game. It beats this game. It beats this game. And then when I said it beats Zolkin, I was like, holy cow. And then when I finally made that determination that it should be number 1, it just made perfect sense to me. It just seemed right. So fantastic game from Matago. Kemet, my number 1 game of all time.
Bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm a bit surprised for sure. All right, my number 1 game of all time is absolutely no surprise whatsoever. And what I think is interesting is a parallel here, because I had just learned and loved Baseball Highlights 2045 when I named it my number 1 game a year ago. I had only been playing it for a few months. I just learned it at Dice Tower Con, really. And we came out and did the list, and it was my number 1 of all time, because I was so enthusiastic about it then. This is what gives me some optimism that Scythe will probably stay where it is, because Baseball Highlights 2045 is staying where it is now. This is a game that I've gone out of my way to play. It's only been helped by the fact that we've had tournament play, which plays completely different from that head-to-head 2-player game. I'm not good at tournament play, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lousy at tournament play. I advanced out of a group once, and then at Dice Tower Con I didn't, but it's a theme that sings to me. It's a variability, paths to victory that are mixed in there. It's a tense game. It's probably one of the best spectator board games there is in my eyes.
Okay.
Other than maybe Pitch Car. Pitch Car is a pretty good spectator one
Sure.
too. But this one, you find crowds will gather around sometimes and just watch and hang on every last pitch. One of my best memories of this game isn't me playing it. It's watching Max win a tournament in the third round of extra innings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a brilliantly designed game. It has that theme that I love, and it's done so well within this game. It feels like baseball to me.
Yeah.
I love the new abilities that are built in. I love the fact that there are so many expansions out there and still more coming down the pipe. I'm excited to see what Mike does with this going forward. And by the way, I'd love to see Mike, if you're listening, I hope you do another sport in this form, if you can, if it's possible. I think it would, if you did something with football or hockey or something like that, I think you do a tremendous job with it. Although obviously it's going to be tough to replicate just how much of a smashing success this is in my mind. Love this game. It stays on its perch. Love, love, love.
Yeah, in my top 20. In my top 20 for sure.
Fair enough.
Just a fantastic game. So I'm kind of curious, Alex, what this list is going to look like next year. I'm kind of at a cusp in my appreciation of certain types of games, heavier games, economic games. I've got like 7 or 8 new GMT purchases sitting upstairs, and I've got some P500 games. So I'm curious if my list is going to look substantially similar or substantially different next year.
The trick with my lists are they continually change. They're very subject to the whims of how I'm feeling at a certain time. But also the fact that 2 years ago I didn't have that much experience in the board gaming world, so to speak.
Sure.
And the fact that the entire list has changed out from 2014 to 2016, whereas there's some standbys on your list that have stayed in pretty similar positions, I think speaks to kind of our differences gamers in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, so Pathfinder's remained, Resistance Avalon has remained, Zolkin, Terra Mystica, and Kemet. So those 5 have been on all 3 lists.
Yeah. And whereas I had only 5 that persisted from last year's list to this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it'll look like in a year, but I have a feeling I know what some of them will be a year from now.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our brand new top 10 list of games of all time. Really, it's a top 6 plus 4, Alex. We like to do top 6s.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, excited to see what's going to happen for year 3 of our favorite games.
The good king would like to congratulate the Dukes of Dice for their 2 years of making it in this world of podcasting. Who would have thunk that this would happen? Certainly not I. It is quite a feat. What a great accomplishment. 2 years under your belts in the duchy. Seriously, guys, I am so thankful and so grateful to be considered friends of yours, and we just love your show. Congratulations, well done, well deserved. I wish you all the success in the world. This is Berkey from the Board Game Theater and the Berkey and Badger Show.
Thanks to Berkey for sending that in. Certainly one of the big friends of the show.
Absolutely.
And unsolicited too, which is always nice.
Thanks, buddy. Right
Thanks,
back
Berkey.
at you.
Appreciate it. All right. We've checked off one Duke-iversary tradition. That's our top 10 list. How about the other one? The State of the Duchy.
I'll reuse the same joke as last year. Alex, the state of the duchy is strong.
Okay.
The duchy economy is bold. And
bold economy.
Yes.
Bold flavor. Like, is it a Cheetos economy?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Are there such things as sriracha Cheetos? Because there should be.
I don't like Cheetos in general, so
anyway,
whatever. All right. This has been a busy last year for us, Sean. If you look at where we were a year ago to where we were now, some of the big highlights, at least for me that I could think of top of the head. One, accomplishing the goal that we'd set out at the very start of the show, joining the Dice Tower Network, which proved absolutely huge for us.
Oh, absolutely. It was a big help for getting the word out about the Dukes of Dice.
And we found that out through our survey, through our listener survey. A good chunk of people, I think the largest chunk of people, found out about us through the Dice Tower Network.
Yes, indeed.
And I think continue to find out about us through that. So that's been a great boon to the show. It's been great getting to know more of the members of the Dice Tower Network during that time as well. Flip the Table. Awesome meeting moderator Chris and the whole gang out at Dice Tower Con. Tom Vassell actually kind of recognized me. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're the other guy from the Dukes of Dice." Yeah, okay.
Yeah, about 44% of respondents said said Dice Tower Network in some way, shape, or form. Whether maybe that's Board Game Breakfast or whatever, but some affiliation through the Dice Tower Network.
So that was a big highlight. Another big highlight that comes to mind is getting nominated for a Golden Geek Award.
That was awesome.
That was completely surprising.
Yeah, I was super excited by that. Super thankful to everyone out there that voted for us. That was awesome. I don't know how else to put it other than that was super cool to kind of see that recognition for what we do every week.
Patreon ramped up to the point where we have had to do a lot more work. And by we, I mean the Duke of we. Sean has had to do a lot more work, but that's a good kind of work to do.
Oh, absolutely.
With the Hangouts, had a great time with some of those Patreon Hangouts.
Yep.
And the Patreon interview episodes have been a lot of fun to do. Thanks to Patreon for getting me all the equipment to do them from home. So hopefully we'll be getting kind of a good diversity of folks going forward. So that's been another highlight of the last year, I feel. What else comes to mind for you, Sean?
Well, I think, like I said, we've made a lot of friends, whether they're friends in media or just friends on Twitter. I mean, it's just kind of crazy to think that, like, I have people that I count as friends that don't live here, that I don't see on a regular basis, and then getting to go hang out with them at conventions is just really cool.
No doubt.
Yeah, and then just kind of seeing that list of people expand, and it's interesting. It's kind of an interesting world we're living in because you probably couldn't have done that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe with some weird servers, mail list servers or something. I don't know. I don't know about that. But no, it's been a good year. We've done a ton of reviews. We've reviewed, I think, 49 games over the last year. Some weeks we double up, some weeks we don't have a review. And that's a lot of games. I mean, when you really think about it, for us to get enough plays in of a game to really get a good feel for it, a good sense of it, that's a lot of games. That's a lot of games, Alex. And we've kind of moved our interviews for the most part out of the main show to the Patreon interviews. And we've had a lot of great interviews over the last years with some very notable people in board game media, in publishing and whatnot, and board game media too. And also, I think some of the new Dukes that we've had, whether it be board game media people like Susanna, obviously. I mean, she's been with us since pretty much the beginning, but like Maggie and Dan, and then some of our Patreon Dukes, like Derek's had a great episode. He's been really helpful in those Patreon hangouts that we've been doing.
I'm excited for Mike's episode, Mike Canavan.
Mike Canavan from Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation, Icarus Tours. Very excited for that. So I think it's been a great year, and I've really enjoyed continuing this podcast. It's a lot of work. I mean, I think that having to...
It's not that much work. I don't know what you're talking about, Sean.
Having to record, having to edit every week is a lot of work, but it's something that I kind of enjoy. I'm really thankful that like Raquel was so supportive because she kind of knows a good chunk of the weekend, sometimes it's Saturday, is going to be Sean recording the podcast, and I think that's just fantastic. And I appreciate you too because you've obviously stepped up a lot in terms of like doing the show notes, which I hate. I hate doing the show notes,
except for the parts that I forget occasionally.
That's fine.
And I'm trying to do the Dukes on deck. I try and contribute where I can.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
In some 10% of the whole work way.
It's felt, and it's a big help. So I do appreciate that. What else do we want to talk about in the state of the Duchy, Alex?
Well, survey results. We've put out a big survey and gotten some good responses. Very good responses.
So what's interesting is right now I'm looking at 151 responses, and this is for a contest. We originally were going to end it this week, but we decided we wanted a little bit more time because we were only getting people who listened to the show in that first or second week. And so there's one more week. It's going to end this coming Friday. So it depends on when you're listening to this episode. But Friday, August 12th at midnight Mountain is when the contest officially ends for a $50 gift certificate to Cool Stuff Inc. Like I said, right now we have about 150 respondents, and we're talking about single digits in terms of our total listenership. So is it a good sample size? Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'm not a statistician or anything, but right now 150 respondents. But again, I don't know if that's necessarily representative of our audience as a whole.
Some interesting insights from this for me. One, people think we take too long with the episodes. Like that seemed to be the most consistent complaint. So you read this differently. So I read more than 90 minutes and more than 120 minutes is about 25% of the total respondents. 75% of the total respondents are 90 minutes or less.
Yes. I think the takeaway here is definitely somewhere in between 75 and 90 minutes.
And we've certainly had
closer to 75.
And we've certainly had some longer recordings lately.
Yes. Whenever we have a special guest, that tends to make things a little bit longer. So what I found interesting was we asked how long have you been listening to the Dukes of Dice? And I would say more than more than half have been listening to us for about 7 months or more. A total of about 40% of listening to us for about a year or more, give or take. So that was pretty interesting.
Guild contributions were interesting to me. That I, at least if you read most of the comments, the lion's share, like 99% of the comments, people like the guild contribution and the interaction.
Which was something I was concerned about with, because again, for the most part, our guild contributions, the number of people that participate on the guild on a regular basis, are single digits of our listenership.
No doubt.
And I was kind of afraid of this, the tyranny of the minority, because we kind of go along with what our guild says. We take recommendations from them and things like that. And I was worried that there were just the more casual listeners or the occasional listeners or the new listeners who couldn't care less. And actually, of all of the comments, there was only one person that's like, "Hey, I don't care about the guild." Everyone else is like, "I love it. I love that you guys interact with your guild as much as you do. I love their contributions. I love that they help name the episodes." But although they like that episode naming has moved to the end, for
the most part, yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. What I found interesting is we asked, what segments of the shows do you skip? And 88% of respondents said they don't skip any. They listen to the entire thing. The biggest one that was skipped was discussion topics. By about 6.6% said they'd skip discussion topics. And for the most part, there's some others that come in at 2-3%. So I don't know if there's a takeaway from that. Because here's the thing. We have our initial banter, hey, how's it going? Our recent plays, our news, our game review, our Duke's Double Take, and then a discussion topic. And if we're going to cut the show shorter, it's not so much tighten things. I mean, maybe it's tighten things up too, but also, I don't know. Do you cut a discussion topic?
Maybe. Possibly. That wasn't always a thing we did. It kind of evolved into a thing we did.
We always had a second main segment.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always a discussion topic.
No, and it doesn't have to be, so really it should say a second main segment. Maybe we don't have a second main segment.
What was interesting to me is a lot of people actively like news as a segment of the show.
Yes.
Which I thought was the one that would get most skipped. So I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I never thought that.
I didn't say you thought that.
And you're a newsman.
I am.
Yeah. The other thing we asked was, when do you listen to this episode relative to its release every Monday? And this was kind of a hard one because, again, if people aren't listening till the third week, then they haven't listened to the first mention of the survey, so they wouldn't have necessarily responded. But right now, about 67% of people listen the same week, and 25% listen the same day. So really, we're talking, what was that? 90% listen that same week in total, which is...
Although in fairness, probably skewed by, as you mentioned,
could definitely be
the
skewed.
timing.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the big one where I think we're going to have some interesting things to say, Alex. Game weight preferences.
Ha-ha.
So we asked, and again, I don't think you get math. I really don't.
Okay.
So we asked, what are your preferred weighted games that we review? Filler games, light medium, medium games, medium heavy, and heavy games. And we kind of gave some examples of each. So for example, heavy games would be Arkwright and Food Chain Magnate. Other than that, we haven't really reviewed a true heavy game, somewhere over that 4.0 line, because 4.0 was the medium heavy and 5 is technically heavy, but we haven't done anything other than that. So I'm wondering if there was, in your mind, a skewed perception, Alex, because think about it, 2 games out of, say, 100 reviews, that's 2%. 2% of our reviews are heavy games. It just so happens that they were both recent and relatively close to one another.
And I didn't actually review either of them.
Right. Yeah. Which is problematic.
Yeah. And that was specifically mentioned in some of the comments as, hey, cut it out.
Yeah.
Stop reviewing games that Alex doesn't get to review. I didn't, by the way, write those survey results.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're totally in there. Now, this may have changed. A few more results have come in since I last looked at it. But last time I looked at it, filler games and heavy games, because people can select multiple things.
Yeah.
Filler games and heavy games each had 41% of the audience.
Yes.
That wanted us to review them.
Which is still a significant number.
A significant number, but also the lowest number out of anything.
Yeah.
So my takeaway from that was we probably should back off on the heavy games.
Okay, but they comprise 2% of our list of games reviewed.
And that's already too many for my taste.
Well, yeah. It just seems overrepresentative because they've been more recent. But here's the thing. I think there is a desire for heavy games because with some exceptions, there's not a lot of video content. There's not a lot of podcast content. Obviously, Heavy Cardboard, that's what they do. But for the most part, some of the heavier games get ignored. And to me, it's a significant enough number that people want to see. But yeah, I don't think that we want to do more than maybe 2 a year.
How often do we review filler games? Like full review filler games?
Very seldom, but that's kind of weird too. It's a little bit different though. They're not quite interchangeable.
Because we could review a whole string of filler games.
We could,
like 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
In one episode.
But what we tend to do is we tend to do very in-depth reviews. Like, I don't know, a filler game is weird because there's not a lot of meat to it. So I don't know. I mean, I think
that is the definition of a filler game, yes.
that there's not a lot of meat to it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
But what was clear in a way people want to see are medium games, 95%, medium heavy, light mediums. And I always knew that was kind of the sweet spot. So I think there's good evidence that we should continue to do some heavy content.
Very rarely is my takeaway from that.
Okay. Consistent with our 2% of the time?
So 2 episodes a year, or 1 episode a year.
Okay.
Would be 2%.
Yeah.
That's 1 episode a year.
Yeah. I think based on the numbers, that's actually underserving the demand for it. But that's okay.
All right.
We don't want to talk about serving demand here because Alex will get upset about the market.
Oh, food chain magnate. Those are really my main takeaways, though. I think we've kind of addressed them. Do you have anything else?
Well, from the survey in general? What about this one this question that you wanted so badly?
Well, I didn't think I was going to win on it. I was curious.
Whose opinions or tastes you tend to align with more? About 54% said a little bit of both of ours. And then
Some people said none, which I thought was funny.
there were a couple. Yeah, very, very small sliver there. And then 30% said Sean and 15% said Alex.
That's all right.
Well, but I think
Team Alex has always been the underdog in this one, Sean.
But I think that makes sense because I'm usually right. No, I'm just kidding. Because I'm more in line with a typical BGG user, I suspect.
I would agree.
And so I don't think that's... and what was interesting, too, is a lot of the comments were, I tend to align more with Sean. However, Alex aligns more with the people in my playgroup. And so it's helpful to hear his perspective because I know how people in my playgroup will respond to certain games.
Part of it may also be a self-fulfilling prophecy in that you also do choose more often than not what we're reviewing.
Yes.
So if people are interested in those games or listening to the episode for that reason, they might be more likely to... I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I know, but that doesn't actually fulfill itself.
Shenanigans!
That doesn't fulfill itself. That just says that
Don't you lawyer me,
that
Sean.
they have the same alignment of tastes is all that is. And then the big question we want to answer is do you participate in the Dukes of Dice Guild? And 64% of respondents said no. 35, 34, or 36 said yes. So that's what I figured. I figured that, there's a lot of people that listen casually or they just kind of lurk in the guild. But for the most part, no, most people don't participate in the guild. And they kind of said, too busy, or I don't really understand BGG, or I lurk, but I don't participate. I'd like to, I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But ultimately, the big result was they like the guild, even non-users, because we asked a bunch of questions. If you don't use the guild, how come? Do you appreciate it? And by far, the vast majority, like 98, 99%.
No, there was like one person who was like, I actively hate that you use the guild so much. Stop,
Right.
Cut it out.
Yeah. So, and then there was a lot of other feedback. I think there was a lot of keep up the good work. But then it's a lot of really good feedback that we're not going to go in to, but we're certainly looking at taking into account. And I really appreciate everyone that took the time to respond to this. I mean, obviously you're trying to get that gift card, but it's helpful to the podcast, helpful for us to kind of connect more so than just connecting with our awesome guild, which we do on a weekly, daily basis, whatever. So it's good to get some of this information. So we appreciate that very much so.
All right, Sean, you had another project you were looking to get done in time for episode 104.
I did, and this again came from help from the guild. I had started this episode catalog a year ago, and then I just kept forgetting to fill it in. And so I threw it out there to the guild. Can you give us some help? And so we got a ton of help from Steve O'Rourke, Josh Walton, Derek Davis, Rochelle Gordon, and Nick, and Chris, who is Ghidorah on BGG. Everyone there helped with like 5 or 6 episodes. Chris did like 20. 20 episodes. They went back.
It was the Alexander Hamilton.
So they went back to the episodes. They listened to the reviews to see what we gave them. They kind of listed out what happened in each episode, the main segment and things like that. And then I now have a list of what we've rated these different games, so I can kind of sort and see, here are all of the 5s. Here's what we gave them in the double takes. So, Alex, going back, you have given a total of 2 1s.
Yep.
2 1s.
I can tell you what they are offhand.
They were double takes. You haven't given them in main reviews.
Right.
And so the reason I'm kind of counting double takes here is because for that first year, we didn't do the full 6-point rating system. So I gave 1. In terms of 2s, you've given 4. I've given 2.
Mean Duke Alex.
In terms of 3s, we're about statistically even. 13 for me, 17 for you. 4s, we are almost identical. 30 for me, 29 for you. 5s, okay, here's where I kind of take off. I have 26 5s that I've given. You gave 18.
Yep.
And now something that you criticize me for, just giving out 6s like they're candy.
Mm-hmm.
I've given out 16 6s. You've given out 14.
Yeah.
Statistically similar.
Add up the 5s and 6s.
Yeah, I give out too many 5s, but the accusation is I give too many 6s.
I think you give out too many generous ratings in general.
Okay.
So the accusation stands. I feel vindicated by these. Take
right.
that, Sean.
Okay.
No, it doesn't really matter. And by the way, as mentioned, you pick the vast
pick.
majority of the games that we review.
Right.
And you tend to pick games that you like.
Right.
It makes sense that would be the case.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it also kind of lends itself to the whole mean Duke Alex narrative. Because if you averaged it out, if you looked at it overall, I'm far meaner in terms of my scores, I guess.
Not significant,
not far, but
not significantly so.
But clearly meaner.
Yeah, I suppose. But really, it looks like that 4 is kind of the sweet spot where we tend to gravitate towards. And so the whole idea with the rating system, it's a 6-point rating system. A 1 is it's a horrible game. A 6 is an all-time favorite contender for the top 10. And we did the 6-point rating system. People even mentioned I'm confused why it's a 6-point system. And so we've explained this when we transitioned over to it. It's because if the rating is too big, if it's like 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, then it's too granular and you lose some meaning. How is an 8 different than an 8.5? How is an 80 different than an 83? Like, can you really articulate that difference? But if it's too small, like if it's a 4 stars or 5 stars, then it's not quite granular enough. And so the 6-point system, we think, is kind of a sweet spot. So there's nothing in the middle. There's no 3.5. It's 1, 2, 3. That's the low end. 4, 5, 6 is the upper end. So you can't just kind of default to, it's a halfway point.
There is occasionally a 3.5 or a 4.5.
Right, but that defeats the purpose
of
I understand. The system. So we try and keep to that hard number, and sometimes we'll kind of throw in a little modifier, but like, it's a filler 4 or it's a family 5. And I think that there was a question that I put on the Guild where I think that I was harder. I rated games, and I can actually look at these numbers. I rated games a lot more critically in the first year than I did in the second year. And I think it's partly because, I feel bad if I'm saying a game, I don't like a game, but I see the value in it. And I want to at least say, maybe this is like there's an argument that Royals, I probably could have given Royals a 3, but I kind of gave it a 4 because of its gateway value and gateway purpose. But for my purposes, I'm not going to pull out Royals. Like if it's a group of regular gamers at Empire here at the Duchy, we're not going to pull out Royals. But if there's a need for it, so I don't know. I don't know if I feel like I've gotten less critical because I'm recognizing different roles that games can play.
I think that's okay.
Yeah,
because
maybe.
I think part of, and people have mentioned this on the Guild, people who listen to the show know inherently where we're coming from.
Sure.
They also know that our backgrounds in terms of these games have gotten a little more extensive just by the sheer nature of us having to review so many games.
Right.
You just look at my top 10 list and see the complete topsy-turvy nature of it. You get a sense of the different degree of experience and the change in my tastes. A 4 2 years ago, Sean, for you, is different than it is now.
Probably.
And that's just how it goes. That's part of why we have the double takes. That's part of why that's there. And part of that is having that bigger picture view of what's going to work and fit into a collection. And I think we've come to realize that there are a lot of potential fits in a collection. So it comes up enough. I don't see a big need for change, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying change the rating system.
No, but even how we use it. Like I think we've been using it fairly.
Yeah, and ultimately it's an individual call. I have though tried to be a lot more critical of what I'm giving 6s to, because it starts off as a contender for the top 10. Well, we play enough games and I like enough games that really it's my top 20. Oh, it's my top 30.
And I got on you for that.
Yeah. And I think that it's hard to say because there can be 50 fantastic games. I mean, I'm getting at a point now where I'm starting to get rid of 4s in my collection. And a 4 is something that we say belongs in the Duchy because I'm running out of room and maybe I only have 5s and 6s. Maybe there's a point where I only have 6s, although there's not really that many games. There's probably about 30 games I've given a 6, or I could give a 6 to, games that we haven't reviewed and things like that. But a 6 isn't a perfect game. Some people have said that, a 6 out of 6 is a perfect game. And I don't know that there is a perfect game. I mean, even Terra Mystica has issues. Solkin has issues. And to say that you're not going to give a game a 6, But yeah, I think
Baseball Highlights has issues.
Sure.
It's a tricky rule book in many
Yeah.
ways that is in desperate need of a revamp. Still love the game. Still think it's a 6.
Yeah.
Scythe has its problems. Some of the rules you can easily get screwed up in terms of movement. Doesn't mean it's not a 6. So I think that's correct.
Yeah. So just some interesting data from that work that all those people did. Really appreciate the help because for both of us to kind of split it up amongst the two of us, the Ducal us would have been a lot of work.
Yes.
So appreciate you guys helping out. That was a big help. Finally, Alex, you want to kind of talk about some goals of the podcast?
Yeah, and this is kind of tricky because when we started, the main goal was get into the Dice Tower Network.
It wasn't a goal. It would be nice if we can get.
It was a stated goal.
It was. Yeah, but not in the sense of purpose. It wasn't our purpose to get.
No, I mean, we didn't make the entire show about lobbying to get into the Dice Tower Network. But it was definitely something that we would see as a sign of, hey, we've kind of made it, or we've made something that people are interested in. I don't know what a good goal is from here. Oh. Oddly enough. I mean, obviously, increasing listenership is always good.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting better Patreon support is always a good thing.
You mean getting more Patreon support?
Yes. Sorry. Increased in quantity Patreon support, not quality. Thank you. Getting to other conventions, specific convention goal for me is to get to Essen.
Sure.
I think that would be amazing. But I don't know if that's a show goal. Is that really a show goal?
Maybe. I mean, at some point, perhaps.
I know Gen Con's on your goals
Yeah,
list.
I think that we need to get, or Ducal, we need to get to Gen Con, even though it's super crowded, it's super busy. I think it'd be a good experience. I think there would be some value that we could add to the podcast because of it. So yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd of course like to see increased listenership. I like where our guild is at right now in the sense of our interaction for show content is fantastic. I mean, when we do the episode namings, people talk about the games that they played and things like that. I just think it's great. I think it's fantastic. What I'd like to see a little bit more is the guild kind of becoming show independent. I mean, every now and then someone will, I'd probably say about once, not quite once a week, maybe, once or twice every 3 weeks or so.
Depends on the week.
Someone puts up a topic and people discuss it without necessarily our input.
And then we steal it.
And then we steal it,
for the show.
For a discussion topic. I'd love to see that happening more, and I think that just happens more when there are more guild membership. We're almost at 500, which I think is just great. I love it. I love our guild. I love that we've made them as much a part of the show as they are, and I'm glad that, against my fears, that non-guild participants enjoy it too. So that's good, and we're going to continue to include our guild because it's great. I love our guild, and I think that they have really helped to shape the show. And I think that quite possibly we do it more than most, if not any other board gaming podcast. And I think that's kind of something that sets us apart.
And that was always a big fear of mine in the early days is we're just kind of two dudes talking about games.
Right.
How is this going to be interesting?
Sure.
And I didn't have that inherent necessary belief, but we sort of found that organically, I guess. The other goals, one of them that you've mentioned, is doing a Dukes of Dice live show at some point.
Yeah, at one of the cons.
And I'm just getting a ton of anxiety just thinking about that. Like, just sitting here thinking about that. Like, oh man, people are going to be so unbelievably disappointed and bored.
Okay.
Seeing this done in person. I don't know. But at the end, I've had doubts about so many things at different points and been totally dead wrong.
Yep.
But what I can promise you is,
I'm going to put that in a soundbite.
That's fine.
I'm going to put that in a soundbite, and I'm just going to play it for you.
If you thought I did a lot of push-ups before the Dice Tower Awards, you better see what like a live show. Because there's the anxiety of, is anyone actually going to show up and see this thing? There's the anxiety of, are we doing a show that's interesting enough for people to sit through the hour and a half, 2 hours that it takes to record one of these?
Right.
Are they going to be disappointed when they see us screw up and go off the rails and then you have to edit it out later? Like, all of those are huge fears for me, not to mention the whole being in front of a crowd thing, which I know is odd because I'm a TV news guy, but there's not a crowd there. Like, people don't get that. There's not a crowd in the studio.
Now, the 5 o'clock news, filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah, you just hear, and there was a fatal car crash today. Oh, no, it's, anyway. So that, I guess, is a goal, but I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Okay.
I just don't know.
The Ducal Week can do it.
Flip the table makes sense. No, the Ducal Week, if you're doing this, I'm totally doing it.
Okay.
But it's going to be way out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
Way out.
So I would like to add a little bit more in terms of video content to our YouTube channel. We finally broke 200 subscribers, which is awesome. Hey, if you have a chance and you haven't subscribed, you should head on over to, we're now like /Dukes of Dice or something.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd like to do some more of that. We have a video set that is mid-construction that I need to finish. I'd like to do that, and I think for me to do that, I would need some help with the editing, because I'm at a point now where I have enough time on a weekly basis into this podcast. That's kind of why we backed off on Board Game Breakfast. I just couldn't find enough time to do even a bi-weekly segment editing.
And in fairness, I was a total pain in the ass.
You were. Yes. Prima donna when it came to filming viticles.
Yeah.
Viticles? What's a viticle?
I don't know. Is it like
Videos.
It's a version of viticulture that's a very short version.
Yeah.
You get like a little viticle of a game. I don't know. That seems like a silly term. Don't use that term.
No, I won't use that
Okay.
term.
My kind of shoot for the stars goal for the show.
Okay.
Shoot for the stars.
It's to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
And it will be me, is to win a Golden Geek.
Okay.
If the fact that we've been nominated, I don't think it's that far of a stretch to say at some point.
Sure.
Probably not next year or the next couple of years. It would be nice to do.
Well, so here's the deal. If you win a Golden Geek for Best Gaming Podcast, you're no longer eligible to win. So
I don't think that's an official rule.
No, it is.
Is it really?
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Oh, cool.
That's why the Dice Tower.
Oh, now we got a shot at this.
Yeah, the Dice Tower wasn't even nominated this year. So that's the thing, is we need at least 4 or 5 other podcasts to win who we know are bigger than us, who have bigger listenership and whatnot than us. We need them to win. And then, yeah, maybe,
Look, we're going to do this on the merits, Sean. That's how it's going to go.
Yeah. So by process of elimination, this year's winners are the Dukes of Dice.
Yeah, right.
2043, the Dukes of Dice Best Gaming Podcast.
No.
There's only 2 of them this year.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone else has been eliminated.
Right. Oh, boy. Okay. Anyway, that's my kind of shoot for the stars goal, and who knows when we get there, if we ever get there, but that would be the pinnacle honor that I can think of right now. Getting into the network was huge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely huge, and it's proven out just based off of the survey results. Anyway, so yeah, those are goals.
Those are goals.
And other goals for myself are to pick more games that we review.
Okay.
Sean, you've had me start reaching out for review copies more.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, sure, go for it.
yeah, and I think that will hopefully play a role in changing the dynamic of the show.
Uh-oh.
Nah, I don't know about that.
All right. So, yeah, I think that's the state of the Duchy. I think the state of the Duchy is strong. Listenership is going up. Interaction in the guild's going up. Twitter followers going up. Facebook, all of that. I mean, things are good. I enjoy what we do. I enjoy interacting with listeners, with our guild members. It's fantastic. I know I give you a hard time on occasion. And sometimes I feel like your mom.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I appreciate everything you do for the podcast, and I will enjoy the years we have to come podcasting together, Alex.
The same goes for me, back to you.
You feel
Not
like
the
my
mom part. It's been fantastic going on this journey with you for a couple years, because it really just started off as, hey, let's do a podcast. I really want to do a podcast.
It's easy.
So for anyone who wants to do a podcast out there, it's really as simple as just having a friend who does all the work to do a podcast. But I genuinely appreciate the amount of time, effort, love you put into the shows. The amount of production quality that goes into it is, the fact that you run so many filters, you take more time than you would need to. Like, you could put up a passable show in half the time, and you don't.
Oh, these filters, they're the worst.
I know. But I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the ambitions that you've always had for the show, and the fact that you've been willing to see and able to see. You've had better vision in terms of, I can see where the show's going. I can see that this is going to be something that hopefully folks will want to be interested in. And I appreciate you just doing the work and putting up with my ass sometimes. Seriously, I'm not always the easiest person to deal with, but I appreciate you bearing with me and the changing schedules, and yeah, man, love you, man.
Well, I love you too, buddy. And as everyone knows, I'm all sunshine and rainbows.
I'm
I'm
all the time. There's no ego there at all to work with or battle against.
Nope, none whatsoever. I was excited. You know what? When our first episode dropped, Meet the Dukes, episode 1, and we had our 14th download, I was super excited.
I remember that. I was like, oh, it's not just us who heard this.
For some reason, because 14 was 10. Because 14 wasn't you, me, Raquel, or Jillian.
Right.
And so I remember when we had 14, like, there's 10 other people that have at least downloaded this. And I was like, that's really cool. So it's exciting to see where we've come, how we've grown. And of course, a big thanks to everyone here in the Duke City here in Albuquerque that kind of help support the show, whether it's helping with our weekly game nights over at Empire, so Rory and all of the staff over there, our buddy Matthew, who helps kind of organize those, and he lets us bounce ideas off of him, and he makes suggestions, and we kind of chat throughout the week to help make the show better and to make the whole, whether it's a local community or the Dukes of Dice Guild community and all that better. So thanks to him, and really, I mean, there's so many people that help us on a regular basis, that help promote us or help with events or help with, everything. And so, and we're going to, we would forget somebody, but big thanks to everyone who helps us out.
Well, one more piece of business to get to, though. Naming runner-ups.
Oh, yes.
So Jake Bach, who did that tremendous intro, played off of Unbreakable Wings. That is the name of the theme song for the show. It's done by Carbohydro M. Big thanks to Carbohydro M, who, on a very cool basis, I emailed him a long time ago, said, hey, can we use your music? What do we need to do this? And he said, yeah, go for it. No problem. And really nice guy.
And it's kind of given some identity to the show. It's very, it's very iconic in certain, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
But, I think about the Dukes of Dice 70% of my waking hours, so maybe just iconic in my mind. But I think it's such a distinct sound that that maybe helps set us apart.
One of the few things I can actually totally 100% take credit for.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I found that one. Anyway, Joshua Weddle with Pinnacle Picks, referencing the top 10 list. Chris Schreiber with Just Do It, a little Nike in there, a little Nike action.
And French.
Just in time for the Olympics. Yeah, yes. Apologies again to all of our French listeners for every time we pronounce anything French.
Yes, indeed.
Apologies. Steve O'Rourke, Double Dutchy.
Yeah.
Hey, name father, how you doing?
Like jump rope, double Dutch.
He made it back into the top 6. We were shocked last week when he wasn't in the top 6.
Uh-oh.
I know. Todd Kalk with Fever of 104.
Yeah.
Kind of referencing the Foreigner song.
Yeah, is it Foreigner?
Hot-blooded. Absolutely.
Okay.
Hot-blooded. Check it and see. All right, that's all I'm doing.
Okay.
I assure you, unless Sean has some big surprise he hasn't sprung
No,
yet,
I
there's
don't.
no full song for this episode.
So this last month, I've been managing 2 caseloads at work. So it's been a busy month.
That sounds an awful lot like an excuse, Sean.
It is. It absolutely is an excuse.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Episode 104, the Duke-iversary in the books.
It's done. It's over. Now we have another 53 episodes, 52. I can't do math.
52.
Oh, boy. All right, well.
Here we come, 156.
Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And as always, Hail Hydra.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on August 6th, 2016. Our theme music is provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to DukesofDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please also consider supporting us on Patreon. Thanks to Maple Realty, who's provided promotional support. For high-quality board game inserts, check out MapleRealty.com. Maple Realty, think inside the box. We'll see you back here next week. Until then, game on! No more surprises? No surprises to spring on me?
Literally no surprises.
What? Oh, this is so disappointing. I got so excited. You didn't even get me a gift for our anniversary.
I know.
This relationship isn't working out at all.
Oh, are we done?
What?
Oh, man. I'm going to play so much Kemet and Terramisica if we ended the podcast right now. All I would do is just play my top 10 games.
Just forever. There's no way you'd end it. You'd find some other host.
Oh, yeah.
You'd find another Duke you'd find a replacement Alex. New Alex.
I actually cloned you, and I have a cryo tube just waiting to. Right now you're a fetus.
Oh, okay.
So
you got some time on that.
Yeah, it takes 4 years to age you.
And then you're actually my mom in that situation?
Can I be your dad?
No, you cannot.
You don't want to call me daddy?
No. No.